Shawn Lynch. I'm joined by Shawn Jansen, and this is the Shawn and Shawn Show. Third week of the show, Stefani free this week.
Yeah, they did a great job last week. I think a lot of people enjoyed that. You're sounding a bit under the weather as we're getting ready to go this week.
Yeah. You showed up last week, Friday, looking kind of worse for weather, and by Saturday morning I was feeling it. So I'm definitely throwing the blame your way.
Well, you're welcome for that.
Right. Well, we pressed through here. We're troopers here on the Shawn and Shawn Show.
All right. Well, let's look at some of the sights and sounds from last week, and then we'll kind of dissect what happened.
Take a look back at last week's action. Not a lot of undefeated teams remaining after 2 weeks, but one of them, Buhack Colony, went on the road, got a big win over Enox.
Yeah, Buhack, one of our 2-0 teams. We got a couple teams with just one win at 1-0, Delhi and Gustine and Stone Ridge Christian. But Buhack and Chowchilla are only 2-0 teams. Buhack wins 47-32. Big game for Justin Stefani. 3 touchdowns, 162 yards. Got the bump for being on the show last week. Really played well. Buhack scored 98 points in 2 games. That game was kind of sloppy early with a lot of turnovers, but then Buhack kind of slowly pulled away. A little concerned about the special teams giving up a couple scores, but a nice win and a big game coming up against Clovis North.
Yeah, I think if you're the Buhack coaching staff, you got to be pleased. The offense has clicked the first 2 weeks. You've scored plenty. And I think you got to be pleased that you've been sloppy and you know you're going to be better, but you at least got the 2 victories out of the way and they took care of what they needed to take care of.
Speaking of offensive clicking, Merced 63-8 over El Cap. They scored 49 points with still over 4 minutes left in the first quarter. Went to a running clock. They were able to do just about anything they wanted on offense. El Cap was just overwhelmed. But a bright spot for the Gauchos. Isaiah Knott scores the first touchdown. You called that they'd score. Scored late in the game on a 4-yard touchdown pass from Chase Whitaker. El Cap gets on the board. I think things get a little bit easier for them as they face Grigori this week. I think it'll be a more competitive game than we've seen them face off against Buhack and Merced.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this coming. Merced was coming off a loss that they weren't feeling too good about. They wanted to go out and put on a show and kind of get things going. And I think El Cap hurt itself a lot. They gave Merced short fields. They had a couple turnovers that led to easy points, and you're not going to do that against teams like that and be successful. But now they're through the toughest part of their schedule, and we'll see what they can do moving forward.
Yeah, rough start to the season continues for Golden Valley. They drop a 34-15 game against Bayer. Atwater hosted Central Catholic, and Central Catholic puts up 62 points in a 62-13 win over them. And the game you were at, Chowchilla, 27-0 over LeGrand. Kind of a surprise there, how much Chowchilla was able to kind of take control of this game.
Yeah, I mean, you see it and you think Chowchilla really just dominated throughout, but really they turned it all around in just a little 3-minute span there in the middle of the second quarter. Everything was back and forth. Both sides had driven down the field and kind of turned the ball over on downs inside the goal line, but then a 4th down play, Anthony Stewart punches it in. Next thing you know, 3 and out for LeGrand. Stewart breaks free on a 60-some-odd yard touchdown, and then a pick 6 on LeGrand's next series. All of a sudden, it's a 21-0 hole, and they never really recovered from that. Snapped a 15-game winning streak for LeGrand, so that's something that they're going to have to bounce back from and get ready, because they got a tough week here with Livingston the way they're playing.
Yeah, you had to be impressed with Anthony Stewart and his performance.
Yes, I think I had him for 190 yards on 16 carries.
That's right. We recycle on this show. He's using the stat sheet here for his notes on this week's show.
John Shell in general, they don't do anything particularly fancy. You know what they're going to do. They're just going to pound the ball at you. They went for 395 yards as a team, and they're getting it done with the 17 guys that they have. So kudos to them. Very impressive start. Good win for them, and they'll see if they can get it going, keep it going this week.
All right, let's turn our attention to this week with Merced having another big game. They're facing Edison, the top-ranked team in the Central section. In preparation for that, Shawn Lynch headed out to Merced's practice to talk to a few players.
All right, we're out at Merced High with quarterback Tyrone Williams. Obviously, 2 very different weeks out of the gate. What did you guys do well to have such an effective first quarter last week?
Well, honestly, we just came out and played Merced football and do what we do, practice hard, so we come out and just play how we play usually.
I imagine you guys knew it was probably going to be a short evening anyway. Were you impressed with how well you were still able to execute?
Yeah, I was actually very surprised at the score and so early. I didn't really expect it to be that bad, but I knew it would be kind of not really fair. So.
Obviously, a little bit of different opposition this week going up against Edison. This isn't a game that's gone well for you guys the last few years. What do you got to do to be successful here? What did you learn from last year?
Don't come out intimidated or whatever they want to call it. Just come out and play our football, practice, play how we practice, and we can do that good job.
Is it a case where, because of the athletes that they have, sometimes it's better to just throw the ball away or take a sack as opposed to going for that big play and then having something bad happen?
Yes, definitely, but still we want to come out and play how we usually play every other week because they're just the same age as us, so they're just as good as we are.
Obviously, tempo is a big part of what you guys do. How have you felt about it through the first 2 weeks, and what do you got to do to kind of kick it up a notch for this one?
We know that most of their players play both sides, so we'll be playing even faster than we usually play, so they get tired.
Yeah, Shawn made it sound like it was something you guys were even practicing last week, sprinting off the field as fast as possible.
Yeah, we had to sprint everywhere we go, even going from drill to drill, sprint everywhere. So.
Obviously, turnovers were an issue last year. What did you learn from that? What do you got to do differently?
Be more careful with the ball, play more sound than I usually would, as opposed to last year. So.
Was it a case of just forcing some things, or?
Yeah, definitely trying too hard to make a play, and rather than just taking what I can.
Yeah. You guys excited for this opportunity? It's always fun when you get together with a team like that.
Very excited.
Cool. All right, we're here with running back Jabar Byrd. Big week last week for you, obviously, even though it didn't last much longer than the first quarter. How's the offense kind of carry that over into this next week?
We just got to stay focused and be aware of what we're playing against and who we're playing against. A good physical team, so we got to bring the physicality in what we're capable of.
I imagine you guys were expecting to have a big week, but still, were you a little surprised to throw up 49 in the first quarter?
We weren't. We were surprised, actually. We were just doing our job, and the outcome came to what it became.
Edison's obviously a game that hasn't gone well the last few times you guys have gotten together. What did you learn from last year? What has to go differently for you to be successful this time around?
We learned that we have to possess the football on offense and make sure we come up big on defense, and just make sure we take advantage of every opportunity we have when we possess the football.
Yeah, it's not often you guys go up against a team that's got equal athletes or maybe even more athletes. Does it become a little more about managing the game and minimizing the mistakes?
Yeah, as the game goes, the team with the most mistakes usually falls short. So as long as we do our job and everyone knows what they have to do, we'll be pretty successful and have a good chance.
What have you guys seen on film from them so far, and what can we expect in this game?
They've been really physical, and they look like they know what they're doing. So we just have to come with the same, if not better, and just more physicality and more mentality.
All right, it's kind of our section versus the Central section week. We got lots of games against big time schools from Clovis, and we'll talk about Merced first, taking on Edison. Last few times, Edison's athletes have kind of won out in this matchup. You think it can go any different this year?
I think Edison's definitely the favorite, especially they're coming off a big win over Bakersfield, which is ranked 10th in the state on a field goal with 15 seconds left, which was funny because Edison wasn't even attempting field goals on extra points because they just didn't have confidence in their kicker. But when it mattered, he was able to kick, I think, a 32, 33-yarder with 15 seconds left to get him a win. Big win for Edison. I think maybe Merced, you're hoping that they kind of have that hangover after a big win and they're looking past the Bears. Watching that game, I kind of taped that Edison-Bakersfield game, stayed up late and watched it on Friday night. Really impressed with Edison. You know they have the athletes. Last year, A.J. Grilly was their quarterback last year, and he gave Merced fits. Mm-hmm. This year, they're going to more of a two-quarterback system. They have Hunter Swearigan, who's more of their throwing quarterback, and then they'll bring in Greeley in some packages. But basically, when Greeley comes in there as quarterback, he's there to run the ball, and he's an explosive player. Got a big-time receiver in Cameron Lewis, who came up with some big catches last week. He's a big target at 6'3", a lot of speed. The key, I think, is going to be for the Bears' offensive line if they can go against this big, physical, quick Edison line. Tatum there at nose guard, he's a beast. And then you got Vance Sams there sitting at middle linebacker, another big player that they're going to have to get blocked to have some success. I think Tyrone Williams is going to have to be make some good decisions. Yeah. Realize that throwing the ball away and living to face another down, sometimes that's going to be your best play in a game like this. If they can keep the score close and have a chance in the fourth quarter, a lot of Edison's big guys are going both ways, so that could help Merced.
Yeah, it does seem like this one's all about managing the game, limiting the turnovers. It was something that plagued them in the first game still. Merced has the weapons, certainly. They just got to go out and execute and then, not try to do too much, stay within themselves on the road and, maybe play a little field position, maybe go for, a little more subtlety, like you said, a little less trying to make the big play. If it's not there, don't force it. So
yeah, it was interesting when they played El Cap. Merced head coach Rob Scheid was really focused on getting his kids to sprint on and off the field after plays, knowing that they weren't going to play deep in the game against El Cap, and if they were going to be in the game against Edison, it was going to be a 4-quarter game. Right. So he wanted to get his kids conditioned for a possible battle here against the Tigers. So it should be an interesting game, a big chance for Merced to get that, that big name win on that resume. Let's talk about Clovis North heading to Buhack Colony. Like we said, the Thunder are one of our only 2-0 teams. Clovis North 1-1. They kind of got blown out last week against Folsom 49-13, but who doesn't get blown out by Folsom unless you're De La Salle? Clovis North's got a running back going to UCLA. Let's just call him Big O because I really don't know how to pronounce his name. But Buhack Colony, you got to like the way their offense is playing going into this game.
Yeah, definitely. They've executed pretty much any way they wanted to. They've gotten all of their guys involved. They got a stable of running backs. Like we talked about the 3 returning seniors, but they got a number of kids. The little Muse, he's an excellent runner. Joe Gutierrez has had a score or two. Like they got the numbers and they got the guys who can make it happen. I think what they need to clean up, they got to be concerned about the amount of points they gave up to Enox and just taking care of some of the little details on defense that they didn't last week.
Yeah, if I had to pick a winner here, I think I got to go Clovis North. They're ranked 4th in the Central section. They've got a new coach who's an old timer in Tim Simons, but there's a chance here for Buhack Colony to steal one. I think they're playing well. Just got to shore some stuff up defensively and on special teams.
Forget it. I'll go ahead and be the homer. This game has not gone well for Buhack the last few times they've gotten together, but I'm gonna go. They're playing well. I'm gonna go ahead and give them the nod. Maybe Clovis North is banged up a little bit after the Folsom loss.
Some interesting games. You got Atwater at 0-2 going at Clovis, another 0-2 team. A chance for Atwater to get off the schneid here.
Yeah, Clovis, not quite as strong a team as they've been the last few times Atwater's seen them. They're certainly putting up points and they're putting up yards, but they've lost a couple shootouts early on, surrendering 44 points per game. If the Atwater O is going to get going, it looks like this is the game for them to do it. You're going on the road, and until you see something going, you got to go with Clovis here, but I think there's going to be a little more offense out of Atwater this time around.
Yeah, baby steps. Baby steps. Golden Valley 0-2 at Granada, who's off to an 0-2 start. Granada was probably one of the best teams Golden Valley faced in the non-conference schedule last year. They're off to a slow start, so maybe a chance for Golden Valley, a young team, still trying to find their way here.
Yeah, I mean, the Golden Valley defense is kind of what struggled the last 2 weeks to start the season. Granada's only coming in, scored 16 total points, so something's got to give. Maybe this is the game. We've gone with Golden Valley 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to stick with them. I think they get the win this time.
I'm not going to be well liked by anybody. I'm going Granada here. Sonora at Hillmar. Not often you see Hillmar coming off a 42-0 loss.
No, and Andrew Olson, no touchdowns and 3 picks.
Jonathan O'Brien.
A couple
years ago.
Jonathan O'Brien. It definitely been a rough go for them offensively, and obviously they struggled defensively last week. Sonora's always a big physical team. This is going to be a tough test for them. At least they get them at home.
Yeah, I think that Hillmar offense has kind of struggled. Sonora was impressive. They played Oakdale tough that opening week, 28-14. They kind of blew out Lodi last week. I think I'm going to go with Sonora there. Livingston at LeGrand. You saw LeGrand last week. Livingston's been impressive. They played Hillmar close, lost 10-7 the opening week. They blow out Johansen last week. I kind of like Livingston in this matchup.
I mean, they're just kind of going out and executing. They're playing tough, hard-nosed defense. They're averaging about 300 yards a game offensively. Every kid in the team gets a touch, it looks like, looking at their stats. But, they're playing some excellent football. The thing is, with this game, it's almost always been a shootout. I think this one's going to be a low-scoring defensive affair.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Dos Palos making the trip to Los Banos to face Pacheco. They face the Los Banos schools here back-to-back weeks. The West Side Wars next week. Dos Palos is coming off a win. Pacheco dropped a tough one to Heritage last week. I think Pacheco rebounds here. I think you'll see a strong running game, and Epperson has a nice game here.
Yeah, I think Pacheco's got too many weapons, but I think Dos Palos is clearly making some strides, and it may be closer than it's been the last couple of years.
All right, for Shawn Jansen and the ill Shawn Lynch, enjoy the games this week, and we'll see you next week.